Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. My name is Samyuktha Kannan, and I'm very excited to be talking about this, new space for impact evaluation. I'm mainly going to speak to my experience on a study that I'm co-leading with Berber, Kramer, and Francisco Ceballos from IFPRI, of course, with generous funding from 3IE. And the project looks at the use of smartphone data to estimate losses at crop insurance. Because the technology is so integral both to the intervention as well as to the impact evaluation itself, I just want to give a little bit of a background about the project and about the intervention. So the primary motivation for this is the failure of existing crop insurance models. Globally, the most common form of crop insurance available is weather index-based insurance. And you may be familiar, but weather index-based insurance often has challenges. It has historically faced, low demand, low take-up from farmers. And there is, a lot of distrust and lack of ownership and poor understanding of the insurance product itself among farmers. Those of you who are from India may be familiar with the national crop insurance scheme called the Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana, which has been receiving a lot of bad press, after 2 years of implementation. And a lot of this is actually due to the presence of basis risk, which is the risk that the loss estimated by the index for a large area, like a village or a block, may be lesser than the damage actually suffered by you. So you don't get covered for how much you have actually lost. There are a couple of ways that insurance companies are dealing with this, and a lot of it has to do with technology, new technology, satellites being one of the ways that they predict yields and measure damages. People are also using drones to do this. But the challenge remains that for smallholder farmers with landholding sizes that are less than 5 acres, less than an acre, it's still very costly and still very inaccurate, these damage assessment methods. One of the solutions that is being proposed is to do loss assessment through pictures, through smartphone camera pictures. And this effort has been spearheaded by IFPRI researchers from the very beginning. So we've added a lot to the development of the technology itself. And we've been doing a formative evaluation both last year and this winter. And we will be commencing a rigorous long-term impact evaluation starting this summer. So just to explain, it's very simple. We require farmers with smartphone cameras to click pictures of their fields twice a week throughout the entire season that their crop is growing and that the crop is insured for. And once the season is over, we have like a time series of images, about 40, 50 images. And we have a group of agronomists who look at the images, and they are able to estimate whether the farmer has got a loss or not, and the extent of damage as well. So this is a farmer clicking a picture in the Punjab winter. We have developed a smartphone application to do this, and the smartphone application has some inbuilt features which makes sure that there is no tampering with the images and the images are standardized throughout the season. For example, we have people, staff members, go out and click the initial image of the field, specific to some requirements of the insurance company. And so there is a horizontal line that needs to be aligned with the horizon. And once the image is clicked, this image is repeated every week. It appears as a ghost image, and all that the farmer needs to do is align his camera with the ghost image and then click a picture, and that's all he has to do. But we really do rely on the farmer participation throughout the season. So is it feasible? We have had some encouraging results from our formative evaluation over the last 2 years that I wanted to get out of the way. There are a lot of questions asked whether farmers are able to click pictures, whether they're interested in clicking pictures, and we do find that there is a high response rate. About 80% of the farmers that were enrolled in insurance actually clicked a picture, and 83% of those clicked a picture once a month, so losses could be assessed quite effectively for them. And the agronomists actually ended up being more accurate than the weather index-based insurance and satellite-based loss assessment as well. The graphic here shows how the damage estimated by the experts correlated quite well with the actual yields that we also measured physically for the purposes of doing this validation. And we also found, interestingly, that picture-based insurance does not significantly increase moral hazard, adverse selection, or tampering, which are concerns that every insurance provider has and a lot of economists have as well. I'm not going to delve too much into the results because it's not the focus of the presentation, but further information is available online if you'd like to take a look. There are 2 papers about the feasibility and sustainability of this model that came out of our earlier research. This is, you can imagine through the entire season working with a lot of farmers, we have a wealth of information available that just comes in through the smartphone data without us really having to go there. For instance, we have the initial picture, which is geotagged. And so we are able to detect tampering almost immediately. And the farmer himself is made aware through the app that he's not at the same location that he took the initial picture from. We have repeat pictures coming in throughout the season. So we are able to get like a nice objective picture of the growth stages of the crop and whether damage has occurred and when damage has occurred. And a lot of this allows us to use a lot of image processing techniques also to monitor growth. We also have an app-based questionnaire, so kind of like having the farmers just answer a quick survey themselves right after they click every picture. So that enables us to collect, real-time data on input use and damage without having to rely on recall at the end of the season. We also have a feature in the app where if the farmer feels that the picture is not capturing the damage that is being suffered, he can take a close-up picture of like a particular pest or a disease that he feels he would like the insurance company to know about or the experts to know about. So that is also a data source. And finally, as the data comes in and as the experts kind of verify and analyze them, we have data that the experts are sharing about what they think the growth stage is, about what they think the farmer has done, what damage he has suffered. And a new element that we have added this year is, we thought since anyway all of this data is coming in, why not also provide agricultural advisory to farmers that is very customized and that is very specific to that plot of his. And so the experts, as they are verifying the pictures, they're also sending messages to the farmer about, okay, see, this is what is happening and this is what you can do to improve your yields or prevent losses. So these are all the data that we are able to collect just by virtue of using the smartphone technology. So what are we planning to do with this like wealth of data? We are measuring improvements in management practices. We are measuring the relevance of advisory messages. Like with the satellite data, we're also looking at automating the damage assessment by using machine learning techniques. And we're working with a couple of partners to both develop procedures to predict yield as well as to predict growth stages. And we are interested in measuring moral hazard dynamics over time because that is obviously a big concern to insurance providers, and also looking at operational feasibility of whether subsidies are required, what kind of distribution channels can we employ to scale this up, how the performance of this insurance would work in other crops versus the crop that we've been looking at, which is wheat, and whether tampering and adverse selection worsens over time. So just the the volume of data is enabling us to do all of this. And eventually, we're trying to move towards a space where we can recommend picture-based insurance as a top-up to existing index-based insurance. So just the use of the technology for both the intervention as well as for the impact evaluation has a lot of benefits. For stakeholders, as is obvious, it has reduced the cost of loss assessment greatly by about 10 times, and it has improved the accuracy and transparency of loss assessment, as you've seen the yields correlation show. And farmers are also able to understand how their crop is being how their damage is being assessed, as opposed to an index insurance scheme, which is harder to understand. Advisories are also improving by virtue of the customization that's offered through the app, and the farmer response has been really great so far. They've embraced it. We've done some willingness to pay studies, and they're willing to pay more for this technology and things like that. For researchers, obviously, as any technology or as any mobile app-based intervention has enabled, we are able to collect large quantities of data, and it's real time. It comes to us immediately. It improves accuracy of recall. And we have all this monitoring data that we can use. And also, we are exploring randomization through the app itself so that it's cleaner and easier to implement. There are, however, some challenges. The way that this technology works, we heavily rely on farmer participation itself, and there is still, need for having campaigns or going face-to-face and encouraging farmers to get used to the technology and traverse the learning curve. And also the data that comes in from the mobile app can be a little noisy, so we need the face-to-face interaction to make sure that we are collecting accurate data. So we still do a baseline and an end line, and we still have interaction with the farmers throughout the season to ensure compliance and to do quality checks and things like that. For the image processing itself, as with satellites, extensive field validation is necessary, and we're still doing crop cutting experiments, so actually physically measuring yields to validate the data that comes in from the image processing. And this obviously takes a little bit of time before we can reap the fruits of the validation. And since we have developed the app itself, developing an app is not easy, and although it is inexpensive, it takes a lot of effort and time. User interface is really important so that we don't form a barrier with the farmer. And all of this is a kind of new expertise that is now expected of researchers. And finally, ethics and consent. It's very tempting to use all the data that you have access to remotely, like GPS coordinates or time of the day, the image data itself, and things like that. But it's very important that as researchers, we still maintain our principles and inform in advance, or first decide in advance what data that we're going to use, and then inform the farmers as well, and get consent for all the data that they are sharing. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to elaborate on anything or answer any questions. Thanks.